and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View for a little ladies' tea. Tonight, we're joined by Editor-in-Chief of the Post Millennial, Libby Emmons, as well as the Federalist, Brianna Lyman. Ladies, we were just talking about this. It's funny because I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, okay, we won, and we won in such a big way. And it was such a mandate and a huge statement by the people of this country that they want Donald Trump back. But in some ways, I'm waiting for somebody to be like, just kidding, here's something else you didn't see coming. Until, of course, Joe Biden on Sunday did something that, I don't know, Libby, maybe we saw coming. Joe Biden went ahead and pardoned Hunter Biden. Now, the thing I found interesting about this, and if you want my take on it, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. I think it may have been nice, and I feel like Donald Trump alluded to this. I know my husband talked about the idea that this could be a good thing if Donald Trump had done such a thing, to kind of just let bygones be bygones, say, you know what, Hunter's gun crimes and all that nonsense, lying on a federal gun application, we're going to just put that to the side, and we're going to move forward together as a country. A moment of unity, that would have been a nice thing. But Joe Biden came right out and did it. And the interesting thing to me, Libby, and I'd like to get your take on this, is that it wasn't just limited to the crimes for which he admitted guilt for, Hunter said that, yes, I pled guilty to some of those crimes. This was a 10-year period of time. And I found that very interesting. What did you make, or what was your general assessment of the Joe Biden Hunter pardon?
Yeah, so he did. He took this Biden back to 2014. That's when it begins. And if you recall, 2014, back in that time period, is when Hunter Biden was sitting on the board of Ukrainian energy giant company Burisma. He was getting paid some $80,000 a month, if I recall, to sit there and not at all be involved in influence peddling and not at all be a foreign agent. So I think that the reason that Biden brought it back that far is that Hunter Biden certainly could face FARA charges, over not having registered as a foreign agent while definitely doing foreign business. And there were also allegations that came from the Hunter Biden laptop that he was perhaps involved in influence peddling, in arranging deals between Ukrainian oligarchs and companies here in the U.S., trying to make them more palatable to an American market. And of course, there were allegations that the big guy was involved in that as well. So I think, in a lot of ways, this is not just a pardon, but perhaps a cover-up.
It does feel a little odd, Libby, that you would put a whole 10-year, just a decade, just slap it in there.
Just throw it extra, little, yeah.
Yeah, makes you question some things. The thing about it is, listen, I think that that's the overarching thing. There are so many of us, whenever Hunter was in court and actually charged with these gun crimes and lying on the federal gun application, who said, listen, this is great if he did something wrong. I mean, look, I don't wish ill on anyone, but if you broke the law, then obviously that's a problem, and you have to be accountable. But I think a lot of us at the time felt like that was just to make us like kind of go away. Like, hey, there's enough here. Look, we charged Hunter with something. Everybody just move along. Nothing to see here type of thing.
I
Brianna,
think that's definitely true.
I feel like that was the general nature of it. And now having this 10-year period of time, just kind of all of it swept away, I think it does make a lot of people think, okay, so then almost you're admitting that there was something in there that was nefarious, that if looked into a little further and a little deeper, which I'm going to guess maybe possibly a Trump Department of Justice may do. I don't know, Kash Patel as FBI director. I don't know. They might have found a little something. Libby, I think that for a lot of people made us feel like, okay, so now we really want to know what the heck went on there and what kind of influence peddling there may have been going on. The thing I found interesting about Joe Biden's statement on this, if Joe wrote it himself, which who knows, was that he started to imply in some way that this was a political a witch hunt of sorts against Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
You can't make it up. Are you kidding me? What? Brianna, please help me.
Yeah, I think it's really funny that you mentioned that, because what he basically admitted is that his Department of Justice, which he has overseen for 4 years, is both politicized and corrupt. And what he gets wrong, he's right that it is politicized and corrupt. What he gets wrong, Hunter Biden is not the victim. In fact, he's actually a beneficiary of this political and corrupt system, right? David Weiss slow-walked the investigation. They silenced whistleblowers. They let the statute of limitations expire. They had a sweetheart deal. They did everything in their power to prevent Hunter Biden from ever possibly seeing jail time or a conviction. They weren't ultimately, they were ultimately successful with Joe Biden's pardon, but last week they weren't technically successful. And the real victims of a politicized and corrupt Department of Justice is our future president. It is the January 6th defendants. 1,500 of them Merrick Garland boasted in August about tossing in jail. It is pro-lifers who sat outside abortion clinics praying for the lives of unborn that were charged with the FACE Act. Those are the actual victims of this corruption. And the easiest way to understand this pardon of Hunter Biden is Hunter Biden got pardoned for the exact things that Republicans and that your father-in-law was impeached for, because he questioned those things. If Hunter Biden was not guilty in any of the allegations swirling around him or the Biden family, President Biden would not have extended this pardon to 2014. And the biggest question someone should ask Biden is, why 2014? Is it because of the Burisma? Why not 2013? Why not 2012? Why not 2011? Does Biden know something the American public doesn't know about Hunter Biden's interactions beginning specifically in 2014?
I'm going to say yes. And I think that every single time Joe Biden has talked about Hunter, listen, Libby, he's just been lying about it. He had no idea about anything his son was doing in his own personal capacity as this person who had no background in energy and suddenly making $83,000 a year at a Ukrainian energy company. Get the heck out of here. He said multiple times that he would not pardon Hunter during the course of Hunter's, the court case and all these hearings going on. He said, no, I'm not going to pardon him. Even after the guilty, him pleading guilty and the verdict's coming down, he said, I'm not going to pardon him. He went ahead and pardoned him. I don't think anybody believes Joe Biden anymore. We haven't believed anything coming out of this White House, whether it's from Joe Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, Kamala Harris, any of them for a long time. But just to get back to this really quick, let me just read. I know everybody's heard this, but it warrants reading one more time. Part of Joe Biden's statement. Here he goes. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. That is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. Are you kidding me? Libby, it's as though everything that they are actually accusing Republicans of doing, they themselves are doing. And I say it time and time again, and you have seen it play out time and time again. But this one, to me, let me tell you something. My husband, Eric Trump, has had 112 subpoenas since the day Donald Trump became inaugurated in 2017 as the 45th president. They have been, talk about unrelenting, Joe. They have been unrelenting in their attacks on one man and one family because of politics. There is no doubt with the removal of all the cases against Donald Trump. Oh, suddenly we're just, never mind, we're not so interested in these anymore. And it's because Donald Trump's going to be the next president. And they know the whole point of those things, Libby, was to make sure that Donald Trump didn't end up back in the White House. If they could throw him in jail in the midst of it, great. That didn't actually happen, thank God. And the American people saw through it. They saw through the lies. They saw through the lawfare, and they voted him into office in an overwhelming fashion. I cannot believe Joe Biden had the audacity to come out and try to claim that there was some sort of a political prosecution of Hunter Biden. Wow, Libby.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, that I think it's important to remember is that Hunter Biden wasn't brought up on the tax charges until IRS whistleblowers came out and said that the Department of Justice was systemically suppressing that investigation, and that in fact the DOJ and the FBI had tipped off Hunter Biden in advance of a search warrant, tipped off his attorneys. So the DOJ was protecting Hunter Biden even before Biden took office. All of this was ahead of the 2020 election, and then in the aftermath of that election, after Hunter Biden got Secret Service protection, and those Secret Service agents were made aware of searches that were pending at his residence. So that was already underway of being fully covered up, and it was only because of the whistleblowers that it came out. In terms of the gun charge, the big culprit in the gun charge was that Hunter Biden admitted that he lied on the form in his book. He wrote a memoir where he said that he was on drugs when he bought a gun. And then people were like, wait a second, you bought a gun in Delaware with federal background check forms? You would have had to say that you were on drugs, which means you wouldn't have been able to buy a gun. And then they discovered it that way. So in no way were these political prosecutions. I think what's much more likely is that these were political, but they were political to the extent that they charged Hunter Biden with very minor things. They didn't charge him with FARA. They didn't charge him with influence peddling. They didn't charge him with any of the big stuff. They threw out these little things. And the reason I think that Hunter Biden pleaded guilty in September on the tax charges was so that there would be time for Hunter Biden to be pardoned by his dad. And also, you had the White House come out and say that previous statements that Hunter Biden would not be pardoned, that those weren't lies because Joe Biden just came up with this plan this weekend. You know, there was never a chance he was going to let that man sit in jail. He doesn't want to see his son behind bars as he's like living out the last, couple of years of his life or whatever. So we already knew that he was going to be pardoned way back in June. And it turns out from some other reporting that that is when they started discussing it, when the conviction became obvious.
Remember when the Democrats and the media went crazy over the presidential immunity stuff? It turns out, I was listening to some commentary on this. Joe Biden is likely the first president who will actually benefit from that ruling. Everybody was sure, right? It is the hilarity in all of this, I hope, is not lost on anyone. It is crazy times right now. I feel like, in some ways, I feel sad for the Democrats, their party, all of it. It's just the whole thing is absolutely nuts. But I think that at the end of the day, what ultimately the people of this country deserve is to know the truth. They deserve to know the truth about Joe Biden and his cognitive ability. They deserve to know the truth about how he was forced out of running for president. Because look, obviously I was on the other team, but I got to tell you, that stuff is not great to see. I don't think it sets a good precedent for future elections. We, the people, are the ones who are supposed to actually decide that, not a select group of folks on the Democrat side or Republican side if the shoe's on the other foot, although notice we don't do stuff like that. I think we deserve to know the truth about this, about what we actually suspect is really at play here, which is that there was a far bigger issue at hand. There was a national security issue at hand with what happened with the influence peddling via Hunter Biden with Joe Biden's brother, the whole family, and why they got so much money from so many different foreign entities. We the people deserve to know the truth on that. I hope at some point somebody comes out with the truth. Until then, it's just, I guess we could have predicted this was going to happen, but just doesn't feel like a great day for America. I will say this. The liberals are still upset, Brianna, about this election. They are doing things like letting out primal screams. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this. Apparently, a whole group of people over the Thanksgiving holiday went to Lake Michigan, but in Wisconsin, went to the shores there and let out primal screams to release their pain and frustration over the election victory for Donald Trump. And, there was part of me that wanted to laugh at this and say, this is totally ridiculous. At the same time, you know what? I will take this. I got to be really honest with you. I will take this sort of thing, as silly as these people look to me, every day, all day, over the kind of craziness we saw after Donald Trump won in 2016. Over people literally marching in the streets of New York City, where I was living at the time. I was up in our apartment with my husband, just thinking, when am I going to be able to come out? Are we ever going to be able to leave our apartment? The hostility, all that. I kind of feel like at this point, Brianna, they know on the other side, it's done. You're done. Stop with the craziness. And if they're going to be doing primal screams, I guess I'm okay with that. What did you think of this?
Oh my God, primal screams is so funny. I don't know if the appropriate way to coin it would be like emotional immaturity, but that's what I'll use right now. But I think this really underscores just the type of damage that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and the Democrats did to this country because they spent the past year spreading the most sensational and egregious lies about your father-in-law,
Yeah.
about Republicans, and about Trump supporters. And particularly, if you notice, these primal screamers, most of them are women. A lot of the videos I'm seeing on social media are women. That's because Democrats targeted and exploited low information and vulnerable voters. They spread the claim, for instance, that if you had a miscarriage, you would be denied care, that Donald Trump was going to sign a national abortion ban. All of this stuff was meant to rile up their base to get them to turn out and vote for Kamala. That didn't work. And when Kamala gave her concession speech, she says, everything will be okay. Well, easy for you to say when you understand that this is the politics game, right? That you lie, at least Democrats, that Democrats lie to their supporters to get them to win. But those people in these videos that we're seeing on social media, they bought these lies hook, line, and sinker. They genuinely believe that there is an existential threat to them or to their loved ones in some shape or form because they were lied to. And so if they want to scream, that's fine. But they should be screaming at the Democratic Party that exploited
Yes.
their mental insecurity, their vulnerabilities, and have left them basically in the dust. These people are now coping with all this. I'm going to use the word trauma because that's what they use. It's obviously not trauma, but they bought the lies. They really do believe there's something seriously and gravely going to impact them in the next 4 years, which is untrue. But that's because Democrats can say that and walk away.
And by the way, Libby, I agree with that. And I think there has to be, I would say there has to be accountability. I think the American people were the accountability in this election for these lies, but it does make me feel sad. And I say this all the time. If I got my information from the wrong sources, I can very easily see how people buy this stuff, how they think Donald Trump is some monster who is literally just going to ruin everybody's lives and all the crazy stuff like Brianna just laid out. And I kind of feel sad for a lot of these people because obviously it's not true. But I get it. I get how it happens. I'll tell you who I actually believe isn't really sad, although they're trying to play like, oh, we're already exhausted, are the reporters in the White House. Nothing has happened so great for the liberal media, for the mainstream media, for the legacy media, for the White House press corps as Donald J. Trump. Let me tell you something. The first term in office, all of those people made their names because of Donald Trump. And they're going to have him back. But here's what they're saying. There was an article written in the New York Times, and they said that the reporters were bracing for the frenzy of a second Trump White House. They say anybody who went through it last time remembers how nonstop it was. And they're saying, well, wait, we're not going to fall for all the clickbait stuff from Donald Trump this time. They're going to focus on bigger picture stories. They're going to recognize that they don't need to jump on every single stray voltage that comes out of Donald Trump's phone. First of all, Libby, do you believe that? Because I don't believe it for a second. And secondly, I actually think that they're very excited because they know that at least there's going to be life back in the White House and they're going to have something to do. MyPillow is excited to announce that their Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Their famous My Slippers, these haven't been on sale for over a year and are regularly priced at $119.98, but for a limited time are now only $59.98. And their 6-pack towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list, from bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. But that's not all. They're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-624-3945 and be sure to use promo code TRUMP to save on all MyPillow products. That's promo code TRUMP.
Yeah, I don't believe it either. I think that's a total and complete cope. And one of the things that's great about Trump in his first term is he went to the press briefing room. He spoke directly to reporters. He gave them, big picture things to report on directly from his mouth, not just his phone or, on Truth or whatever else. And he was there and accessible. And that's something that I think a lot of reporters will have missed over these past 4 years. And as for the Democrats who go out there screaming, which for some reason they really like screaming and think that screaming is some kind of political statement, which I don't really understand.
Just makes
But
you
these
look
are-
nuts, but okay.
Right? I mean, these are people who put too much of their personality into being progressive and caring about federal politics. And they need to remember that meaning has some value. They need to go find some life to put into their life instead of focusing so much on the White House. Like all of these women who are going around saying, they're going to get sterilized because now
Oh,
Trump is going to be in office. Ladies, like, there's more meaning in life than whatever's going on at the federal level of national politics. It's just, you can't put your whole life in that basket. And if you do, you're going to come away with very little to show for it.
yeah. And look, the people who bought the lie about internment camps, a la Rachel Maddow and that whole crew of people, that somehow interracial marriages were at stake, all of the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I hope whenever people look back, and by the way, maybe that's going to be our job. Maybe we're going to need to remind people, I don't know, after the first 100 days, after a year in office, halfway through Donald Trump's second term in office, of those lies and how ridiculous they were. And I hope that people pay attention, and I hope they remember that and are really reminded of it, because it's insane. And that's not how you should run an election. And by the way, that's how I knew that they were going to lose. Obviously, we kept our foot on the gas the whole time. You can't take anything for granted. But when they came in really hard and heavy with the fear mongering and scare tactics and the stuff that was just really outrageous, and I was like, wait, what? That's when I said, all right, that you have nothing to talk about. You have nothing to run on. You have a bad candidate. And if you're just hoping to scare people into voting for you instead of the other person, unfortunately, I think you've lost. I'll tell you something that really made me a little bit nervous prior to Donald Trump winning the election was that the United States dollar would not be the currency used around the world. We have the world currency in our US dollar, and you have the BRICS countries. Brianna, this is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, BRICS countries who we know were floating the idea for a long time of a new currency. They wanted to replace the US dollar as the currency of the world, or at least start to do that. Donald Trump has come in and said, and thank goodness for it, that he is not going to play that game with them. He's put on Truth Social, and then I think he put it on X, that anyone with the BRICS countries trying to replace the mighty US dollar would face 100% tariffs and should also be prepared to, quote, say goodbye to selling in the United States economy. I absolutely love it. I think this is the kind of leadership that we have been lacking. These are things that the average person out there, Libby's just talking about how these people are so obsessed with the idea that, oh my God, Donald Trump is going to sterilize us and all this craziness. You forget that there's actually real stuff out there like this, like how bad it would be for our country if the US dollar is not the real currency used around the world and there's some new currency created. That would be horrible for America. And I don't know that we'd ever regain our standing on that. Donald Trump is coming out now and he's saying, don't even try it. You guys don't play games. And you know what, Brianna? I think people believe Donald Trump because guess what? Every time he said something, the first term in office, he meant it, and people did not play games with Donald Trump.
Yeah, this is what happens when you put adults back in the room. And Donald Trump isn't even in the room yet, right? He's still in the hallway.
Yeah.
Except the people in the room are like, oh crap, I can hear his footsteps coming down the hall. Let me shape up or ship out kind of deal. And when we talk about these BRICS countries and possibly moving away from the dollar, I don't think people understand that on a domestic level, when you shift away from the dollar on an international standard, it loses value domestically. And when we're already facing problems from the Biden-Harris regime with inflation, with record high housing prices because of a housing crisis that's being fueled by the illegal immigration crisis, we need to protect our dollar any way we can. So having Donald Trump back at the forefront at a time when people like Vladimir Putin have spoken extensively about possibly moving to a new currency is important, because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, neither one of them make me feel confident if they're sitting across from Vladimir Putin trying to negotiate sticking with the dollar or moving away from it. Whereas Donald Trump, this is a man that's willing to have someone call his bluff. He has made multiple threats in the past 2 weeks about tariffs. And you know what? They've worked. He has BRICS countries saying, He has Justin Trudeau flying down to kiss the ring in Mar-a-Lago. He has the Mexican cartel president scrambling to give an answer. This is a man who puts his word down. He draws a line in the sand, and if people want to cross it, they're welcome to. And if they don't, Donald Trump won't cross on his end.
That's right. By the way, Libby, the photo of Justin Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago. Now, I'll admit I was not there that evening, but I didn't need to be there to get the vibe. It was almost like the Joe Biden meeting when Donald Trump went to the White House. Everybody is smiles. This guy looks as happy as can be. And here's what Donald Trump said. He said, I just had a very productive meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada, where we discussed many important topics that will require both countries to work together to address, like the fentanyl and drug crisis that has decimated so many lives as a result of illegal immigration, fair trade deals that do not jeopardize American workers, and massive trade deficit the U.S. has with Canada. I made it very clear that the United States will no longer sit idly by as our citizens become victims to the scourge of this drug epidemic caused mainly by the drug cartels and fentanyl pouring in from China. Too much death and hardship. Prime Minister Trudeau has made a commitment to work with us to end this terrible devastation of U.S. families. We also spoke about many other important topics like energy, trade, and the Arctic. All are vital issues that I will be addressing on my first days back in office and before. Absolutely fantastic. As Brianna just said, you also have had the Mexican president responding to Donald Trump and his even just the threat of tariffs. This is a good thing for this country. This is what having a president who actually is in charge, who actually understands the issues looks like. Justin Trudeau would have never flown in and had a meeting like this with Kamala Harris. Are you kidding? This is what we are talking about. And this is why, Libby, people came out in droves to vote for Donald Trump to be the 47th president.
Yeah, I'm with you. I loved seeing Trudeau go down there and like try and make a play for whatever it is that he's trying to do up there in Canada. Border security, reducing fentanyl. It's important to note that illegal immigration has increased across the Canadian border like 500%, something
Right.
like that. So I was very glad to see that get sorted out. I'm excited to find out about new trade deals. I think that the U.S. really needs to be a lot more bullish in that area, even with our allies, very important. And like Brianna was saying about the BRICS nations, one of the things that was absolutely terrifying to me was the BRICS push toward using a different kind of currency and the decimation of the US petrodollar. That's what keeps us wealthy and prosperous, and we need that. So to see Trump come in and say, listen, hey, you want to do this thing with your new currency, go ahead, but we're going to tariff you straight to hell. So enjoy yourself. Thank you, Donald Trump, for that. That's just such a clear way to say the American economy is going to be strong and we're going to fight you for it. That's not something we were getting with Joe Biden that was just capitulating all over the place. And you could just envision 10, 15 years from now, just completely bleak American economy with no jobs, no good trade, no manufacturing, no ability to do anything, no food. Like these were the things that kept me up at night when I started thinking about, the lack of petrodollars. Like, what are we going to do for money? The other thing that I think is great is that Trump has already signaled his willingness to reopen the Keystone XL pipeline, which would bring a lot of oil in from the tar sands in Western Canada to refineries in the US. That's great too. That's thousands and thousands of jobs. And when Biden killed that killed a whole bunch of Canadian jobs too. So even though Justin Trudeau is super green or whatever, you can't deny that you want your citizens to have good jobs, and those are good jobs. So I hope to see that back again too.
Well, something we should also note is that Justin Trudeau is up for re-election in October of 2025. And I think it's really fascinating because I kind of feel like a lot of people who at one time were so against Donald Trump actually get that he's got like the secret sauce. And you'll never convince me that part of Trudeau showing up at Mar-a-Lago wasn't somewhat of a nod to him. Like he was trying to help himself out a little bit. I fully believe that.
So too.
I think that there's a lot more to this. Like his people actually are resonating far more with Donald Trump than they do with him. And he's like, maybe I can get a little bit of the secret sauce if I go down to Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. We'll see if it works out, as they say, up in Canada. Speaking of people running for president, I hate to break it to everybody, and this is a scary one, albeit a funny one, Brianna. 2028, AOC may be a contender. There is a lot of speculation on that. A new story from The Hill suggested that AOC would be among the potential, I can't even say it straight, 2028 Democrat contenders who include, wait for this lineup, Ready America, Harris, we're going back, Pete Buttigieg, really? Gretchen Whitmer, okay, J.B. Pritzker, Josh Shapiro, and Gavin Newsom. Oh my God. This is the bench on the Democrat side. I got to tell you something. Brianna, I'm glad I'm a Republican. We have got such talent in our party, and bless their hearts over on the Democrat side. The only one on that side who even gives me pause at all is Josh Shapiro, who, by the way, Kamala Harris 1000% should have chosen as her running mate. Well, a lot of theories as to why that didn't happen. But what do you think of their slate there, Brianna? Are you jazzed about that for the Democrats?
I actually am. I'm genuinely concerned a little bit because listen to what we just said. I agree. I am proud to be Republican because we have policy on our side. I think we're going to see resistance within the Republican Party to Donald Trump's Make America Great agenda. And if Republicans do not have tangible things to show for in 2028, not because Donald Trump failed, but because the Republicans in Congress, some rhinos in the Senate, decided to put up roadblocks. And it's funny to mock AOC, but I think people have to understand, look, your father-in-law is a populist. His message resonates with America. AOC is I think you could classify her as a populist in the sense that she says things like nobody should go hungry. I think we could all agree with that. Of course, the different means to get there is where we differ. But when you are living in the age of social media and you see a 15-second clip, you're a low information voter, and you see AOC saying no one should go hungry, no one should be on the streets, everyone should get health care, you might sit back and say to yourself, that doesn't sound half bad. And when you don't understand the ways that she wants to get there, you may very well go and cast a vote for her. So she's actually quite scary to me. And, I think we all underestimate her. A lot of people underestimated your father-in-law, and he built a tremendous movement. So again, I think if Donald Trump is able to get his agenda through without Republicans stopping him, there'll be no question in my mind Republicans will win in 2028. If we see rhinos block him, I think there's a chance Democrats could make some inroads, and God forbid a socialist like AOC.
No, listen, I take everybody seriously at this point. And it's just funny to me to look at the list of people. The fact that Kamala Harris, Libby, is even still on this list. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. And I know that there was some polling that showed that she was the most popular of the bunch or something recently. I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. I think the thing that I find shocking about the idea of AOC running in particular is that, to Brianna's point, her ideas are incredibly, incredibly far left. I mean, she is on the far, far fringe of the Democrat Party, and it's almost like they didn't learn their lesson. If this is someone who's being floated, and I get it, we just had an election, there's a lot of time there. Who knows what could happen between now and then? Maybe she comes back to the center a little bit. I don't know. But I do think that that is why I agree with Brianna. It's going to be very important for Donald Trump to actually be able to execute things this term in office. And I believe he will. I really think that a lot of these Republicans who may not like Donald Trump, who we may call a rhino of sorts, hopefully they got the message. Because I got to be honest, if they didn't, I have a feeling these people are going to be voted out if they run again in 2, 4, or 6 years.
Yeah, I think that these, Republican senators and congressmen really need to listen to their constituents and do what their constituents want. And we have a big mandate here. We've seen that Trump's policies were wildly popular. So it makes sense that they would go along with them and that they would, do that to the benefit of their constituents. And I hope that they do. As far as AOC is concerned, she is probably the most talented, politically talented Democrat that they have right now. She has veered a little bit more toward the center. She's been very careful. She watched a bunch of squad members get voted out of office. She did not get voted out of office. You know what I mean? So she is, I think, looking to further her career in politics. And I think she's going to be a dangerous one to watch, as is Josh Shapiro. Kamala Harris has also talked about running to replace Gavin Newsom in 2026. So that's something to look at too. And as far as their polling goes, we know already, and they should know already, that they can't trust their polling.
And so
They have bad polling. So anybody that's telling them that Kamala Harris is the popular one for 2028 needs to remember how poorly she did, not only in this election, but how she couldn't even get to Iowa in 2020. And she stands for nothing. You know, my son, during the election, he was telling jokes, you know, knock, knock, who's there? Kamala Harris, who, I'm sorry, we're not taking questions right now. You know, like this is who she is. You know what I mean? If 14-year-olds can figure that out, that she stands for nothing, she's about nothing. She can't even tell you if there should be limits on abortion. She just keeps saying Roe v. Wade without, without talking about what she actually means. She couldn't account for the trans immigration, prison, fund all the surgeries thing. You know, she couldn't account for anything other than her nice lawn and her middle class household. So Democrats should take another look at that polling. But yeah, AOC is one to watch, and she's definitely, as she climbs the political ladders in DC and in New York, she's going to be one to watch out for. And she also was very confused. She posted a video about this. She was like, "Why did so many of you in my district vote for me and Trump? What's going on there? Please tell me." She's going to figure that out, and then she's going to be a viable opponent.
Wow. It's a fascinating time. Well, Libby and Brianna, thank you both, as always, for joining us here on The Right View. To everybody at home, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow, and we will see you back here next time for more of The Right View.
And I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.